What is Bitcoin's plan? What is the roadmap for transitioning to a proof of stake system and no longer relying on computationally intensive mining?
Well, Bitcoin doesn't have a plan because it has no leader and it's pretty decentralized. And when individuals or firms have tried to commandeer Bitcoin, they haven't been successful. So Bitcoin has no plan, but the consensus in the community, to the extent it exists, is that proof of work is completely intrinsic to Bitcoin, and proof of stake is not really a desirable alternative, quite frankly.
All right, and some people reading in between the lines of what Elon Musk said seems to suggest that maybe he's eyeing an alternative here. Are there alternatives?
There's certainly many other systems that purport to do the same things that Bitcoin does. And there's many clones of Bitcoin and many blockchains 3.0 and so on. But at least in my view, none of them have proven to be sufficiently decentralized. And frankly, if you pull the proof of work element out of Bitcoin, you get something completely different. So a lot of Bitcoiners would question whether you can eliminate the proof of work and get a system with those same assurances.
Of course, some also saying maybe Elon Musk is just throwing down the gauntlet here. Make yourself run on cleaner energy, all you miners. So is that the answer? If Bitcoin does need to remain in some sort of digital gold, it's still about 40% of the ecosystem. Who wants to maintain that? Are people looking at ways of shifting to cleaner ways to mine it?
Absolutely. And, there's a big distinction between an energy cost and then the actual carbon outlay, which people often miss, right? And it really depends on the source of energy you're using. Of course, we know that a large share of Bitcoin is mined, in particular in places like Sichuan, Yunnan, in the wet season with hydro. But we can do a lot better. And there are some great secular trends. Actually, the Chinese province of Inner Mongolia recently banned Bitcoin mining, and that was 70% coal powered. So if you actually look at the trends, they look to be improving structurally. We're seeing a lot more hash rate onshore onto the US. The US has a greener grid than China, so that's great. I'd like to see more from miners in terms of disclosing what their energy mix is, what their power sources are. But certainly there's actually a lot of cause for optimism here around the energy mix of Bitcoin, quite contrary to the tone Elon is putting out.
Let me ask you a question. You write about Bitcoin's energy usage a lot. This debate, these points that you make about how there's a difference between energy use total and sort of carbon emissions because some of it's clean. Do you, as a participant in the industry, think that from a sort of like regulatory legal standpoint, that one of the bigger risks to the environment is that regulators crack down on it for precisely this reason, hence your motivation for writing about it so much?
The motivation to write about it is frankly because the debate is very poorly informed, and a lot of the critiques I see are just not really grounded in reality and the facts of the protocol. Certainly, we're seeing capital becoming much more politicized and much more informed by ESG considerations in the U.S. And that's only going to continue. And every day I talk to large allocators that have trepidation about Bitcoin precisely because of the environmental impact of the system. So it absolutely doesn't affect everyone on the sort of capital allocation, capital management side of the industry. So it's already a consideration today, and I expect that'll only continue to be the case as ESG gets fully normalized. Yeah. And so that would be the challenge that I would pose to Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners tend to be long Bitcoin. They want to accumulate Bitcoin. So their duty is to render themselves as environmentally friendly as possible or buy carbon offsets if they can.
Nic, I want to get your thoughts here on Coinbase. We did get that first earnings report out of the company today. Obviously, they had guided even before the direct listing, so we kind of knew the numbers. We did see pretty healthy monthly transaction numbers here, and they're actually guiding a little bit higher. What do you generally see here as sort of the bright spot for Coinbase going forward?
Well, Coinbase is a very straightforward business, frankly. Their revenues are very much a function of retail trading volumes, and those have been strong. They haven't really changed there. There's not a lot new there. So pretty much delivering exactly as expected. Of course, the price performance has been somewhat disappointing, and it's tracked sort of the broader crypto markets, but not a lot of surprises there. What I'd like to see would be if they can diversify their revenue a little bit and build in more lines of revenue mirroring the way that conventional exchanges operate, who they tend to have larger data businesses. Few crypto exchanges monetize their data, and seeing if Coinbase can maybe monetize their AUM on a net interest margin model, perhaps, which they haven't done so far. So they still have plenty of room for growth, frankly.
Nick, of course, full disclosure, my husband's a senior manager over at Coinbase, so I won't pass over the numbers too much, but it is interesting that in some way Coinbase gets pulled down when crypto falls, but inherently they make money off the volatility therein. Bitcoin currently trading 10% lower, but Ethereum down 10% as well. Even though we see yet another big institutional player hanging their hat in the crypto space, Steve Cohen's Point 72, exploring blockchain, the crypto sector. How is this a, I mean, I feel like you're going to say this is a buy the dip opportunity, but at what point does it actually correct? Do you see a significant sell-off coming to the crypto space?
We've sold off, I think, most of the sell-offs, partly to do with the Elon effect and so on, and the disappointment around that, but also very saliently regulatory concerns, and that's going to affect the broader market. We see this Binance investigation today. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that this Gensler SEC is going to be much more aggressive, and the SEC commissioner is going to try and make his mark on the crypto industry. And frankly, a lot of these exchanges are hosting the trading of dubious products, things that resemble equity, things that might be potentially brushing up against securities laws, and it doesn't surprise me.
Nick, real quickly, we just have a couple of seconds. Is it a problem for Bitcoin that I can't buy dog tokens with it and that I have to use Ethereum instead?
I don't know if you want to be buying the dog tokens, Joe, frankly.